Hey guys, what's up? It's Terry with Bucket Ponds, and today I'm here to show you another new aquarium. It's Friday and we're building a new tank. You may have noticed that I missed last week, and that's because I had a very unfortunate death in my family, and I just couldn't cope with making a video right then. But today we're having a double upload, so you'll have this video along with another one uploaded right behind it Friday morning. Watch them both, watch either one, up to you guys. But I got to keep on track. I got to make 2 tanks to get back to where I need to be for my 1 tank every week for the whole year of 2022. So anyway, we're getting caught up today. This is another one of those excellent cookie jars from the dollar store. Great price. This one didn't come with a lid, so I've had to become a little bit creative with it. But I ultimately decided to include this little Tupperware piece here as a plant pot. We're going to set it right in there, just like that. We're going to have a fully functional snail aquarium down here, providing all sorts of nutrients and moisture to this little plant pot up top. Now I have drilled some small holes into here, and this is just a little Ziploc Tupperware style, small cup container. But it happens to fit right there, and that's perfect. So our first objective is to add a substrate to our aquatic portion. Now I will have soil within the little cup, and that will release some nutrients into the water, so I'm not going to include anything like a Wallstad style setup here. We're just going to throw some sand in there. This is the same pool filter sand that I use in all of my projects. Great stuff. And we're not going for anything fancy here. I just like a nice layer of sand. We don't need a lot of sand because the macroalgae, it doesn't have traditional roots. It has holdfasts, which is like the algae equivalent of a root, but it won't go very deep. So a little bit like that is a great start for a Netella aquarium. Now our next step is to add some Hardscape. I don't want to go too crazy here because we're not going to see too much, into the bottom of this tank. This is more about the plant pot up top. I don't want to go too crazy here because, I do have a thing that's going to sit into this tank. So we're just going to use some really nice pond pebbles and a couple chunks of marble rock. And these are mostly for decoration. Yeah, I'll be right back with some water and we're going to get started. So in this case, I don't have any soil beneath the sand, so I'm not going to worry too much as I add my water. Just going to try to keep my stream in the middle there. Alright, it's going to be a little bit cloudy, but that's okay. I'll be right back with some more water.
Like this, like a small world. The stone, the sand, the water, these are resources that we're adding to this little world. We're adding nutrients and all sorts of calcium, and everything that life needs to survive.
We're going to do a quick check with the container here to make sure it's deep enough. We're going to go a little bit higher on our water. Just a little higher. So, instead of adding more water, I'm going to go ahead and get the Netella samples. I use Netella Macroalgae, Netella characea. I believe that's how you say it. It's a very poorly studied macroalgae, freshwater, and I find it fascinating. If it gets established in this tank, it'll do a great job of filtering the water and providing habitat for all of our little pets. So let's get some Netella and I'll be right back. So this is my characea Netella macroalgae. This is not stonewort, but this is related to it. If you're familiar with stonewort, then you'll know, the basic family of what I'm talking about. But Netella is a very different creature. It's very soft. Oh, it smells really good. It's a strange macroalgae. I love it to death. I do sell it just like this on my Etsy shop. But, I'm not too happy with my shipping methods right now. And I'd like to approach it from a more professional style. So I might take it down. I try to keep it as cheap as possible. I grow it all myself and it is full of small creatures, man. So we're just going to add the Netella just like that. Yep. nothing too fancy. And then to weigh it down, I like to add just a couple more rocks. And that encourages the Netella to form holdfasts and to sort of root to the bottom of the tank. So now we have that done. I'm pretty happy with it. If you look closely at the Netella, it's actually loaded with snail eggs. So yeah, instead of transferring adults into here, I'm going to rely on the eggs to hatch. And that typically works better for the snails. If they're born into a situation, they seem to survive better in that situation. If they're just thrown into some cold water somewhere, different temperatures, different pH, it does seem to affect them. And in a situation like this, it's best to start with eggs. So if you did order some of my Netella, expect a bunch of snail eggs in there and all sorts of other creatures. I'm going to add just a little bit more on the back side. We'll make that the back side back here. That looks great though. Let's do a height check with our little plant pot. Make sure it goes deep enough into the water to get wet. Almost. Tell you what, let's add a little water from the farm tank. That's where this was collected. And it's very sad. It's very sad, but my family member, my uncle, who passed away, he was the one that happened to give me the original farm aquarium. That's the perfect height right there. All right. Some more of my small pond pebbles in there. All of the stones and plants that I work with here are, all of the stone and soil and sands that I work with are very easy to find and very cheap to acquire. I don't buy any of this stuff from pet stores. I wish we had a little mom and pop pet shop around here that had fair prices. But unfortunately, in my neck of the woods, my part of the country, all we have are the big pet store chains, and they charge way too much for every aspect of an aquarium, when you can get the same sand, stone, and other materials for much cheaper at like home improvement stores. So anyway, there's our rocks. I've added the rocks to this small planter because it will weigh it down a little bit, keep it in the water at the right height, while also allowing like a drain field for the plant. That's right, I'm going to have plants up top. Our next step, I'm going to add some soil. This is just organic potting mix from the dollar store. Nothing special about it. I've tested it before. I know it's safe in the water. Won't hurt the snails. So that's great. And we're doing it just like that. I am going to wet this soil slightly once we're finished. And to top it off, I'm going to add some of my pool filter sand. This is just going to act as a cap and keep the soil covered up, looking nice up top. Alright guys, I'll be right back with our plants for the top part. But for right now, I wanted you to see the tank to get an idea of what's going on in there. It's a little bit blurry, but that's mostly just a temperature issue. The water's the condensation forming on the jar because I did use some slightly cold water. So I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes, and I'll be right back with the plants. Alright guys, I am back. I snuck out to my garden and I took a few cuttings of one of my special land plants. We worked with it recently. We have Creeping Jenny, straight from my garden. This one was growing on land, and it's a little thicker, it's a little harder, and just looks healthier overall. So I'm going to try growing some Creeping Jenny up out of the top of this container, sort of like that. And I think that'll do really well. I wanted to use a plant that I know can do well underwater and, above the water surface. And this is that plant. So whether or not it grows, through those little holes into the bottom of the tank, it'll be fine. If the roots stay wet, it'll be fine. This plant is totally okay with that. So this is Creeping Jenny, and also called moneywort. And we're going to plant it up in the top section. They may compete for nutrients a little bit, but that's why we have such a nice soil layer up here in the small pot. So that's all there is to it, guys. She might look a little weird right now, but trust me, over time this is going to be a beautiful new addition to the Bucket Ponds collection. With any luck, we'll have some amazing creeping Jenny stems sort of reaching up and out of the jar very soon. We have quite a few snails in here, and they're small, but they're breeders. It won't be long before they have babies, and of course we have a bunch of eggs in here that were included. They'll grow up soon too. We'll have even more breeders, and I'll begin feeding them with occasional cucumber slices. Snails also reduce the bad algae, the algae that blocks the sun from inside the tank. But the snails help to reduce that. They just scoot around and they eat and scrape everything off the glass, including algae. They will not eat the Netella though, so that works as a good safety measure to keep our filtration intact. The bladder snails get a bad reputation online, and it's unwarranted. They're fun pets, they're interesting to watch, they breed quickly, they're pretty tough, they're highly adaptable to any different situation, and I just love them to death. I can't believe there's people out there that smash them and kill them and hate them for some reason. The worst they can do is gum up your filter. If you have a mechanical power filter or something, the bladder snails will get in there and they'll get into the gears and they'll mess it all up. But if you rely on sponge filters and things like that, or in the case of this aquarium, no filter. If you do things that way, bladder snails are an excellent part of your ecosystem. Remember, when we build a tank like this, we're not just making, a snail aquarium where it's completely clean and just has a few snails in it. That might work. I don't do that though. We're building ecosystems. There are tons of other creatures in here like water mites and green hydra and ostracods and paramecium and hydra, or like hydra twice. Hail hydra, right? But yeah, we have all sorts of things in here like green hydra, planaria, ostracods, water mites, paramecium, all sorts of creatures. And it comes loaded with beneficial bacteria. The macroalgae is designed to let water pass through it, and it gathers up nutrients and contaminants, and it uses that as fertilizer, and it grows. And oh my god, I just love this macroalgae. And when you pull it out of the tank, it even smells like some kind of delicious garlic or something. It's not even a garlic smell, but it's something like an herb. It's really interesting. I wouldn't eat any of it, but if you happen to grow it yourself, when you pull some out of a tank, you'll know the scent. It's interesting. I don't really need to grow extra Netella. I have so much of it. So in this case, it's more or less here for filtration and habitat for the creatures, places for them to hide, and just bringing them into the tank with the Netella. They already roost on it. It's covered in live organisms. But adding the Netella brings all of this into the tank and sort of kickstarts this new ecosystem into existence. Creeping Jenny, on the other hand, might look a little rough to start with, but that's fine. She will bounce back really quickly, and especially with this amount of water and this much soil, we're going to have Creeping Jenny reaching out of here within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, at my estimation. So anyway, guys, I'm Terry with Bucket Ponds, and this is my new 2-stage planted jar aquarium. We have macroalgae, beautiful freshwater macroalgae, populated with snails and all sorts of little creatures. We have beautiful, amazing filtration in the form of our macroalgae. There's no pumps, nothing like that in here. No air pump, nothing. So we have our beautiful macroalgae acting as an excellent biofilter. It is fresh water, and it comes with tons of small creatures. It kickstarts the ecosystem into existence right here, and I love it. I love Netella so much. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. I make a new aquarium, a new jar aquarium, every Friday. If you're into jar aquariums and things like this, that's what we're doing. You can catch me here at Bucket Ponds every Friday with an upload. Might be kind of late at night, might be kind of early in the morning. I'm working on narrowing that down a little bit. But we've built an excellent snail aquarium with macroalgae and beautiful Creeping Jenny. And I'll see you again later. Thanks for watching.